look at this seat first of all. Let's assess what's going on this little seat. It is not in great condition, right? It's a little scarred, a little damaged. And normally I would paint him right here and then paint some little things around him. But I think we're gonna do a little bit of a background today, and then we're gonna dry it up and start with our project. So let me grab a little brush. This is a natural fiber brush. This is the French tip. We're gonna take this and I'm gonna do like a little, kind of like a blowout of blue. I'm not gonna go all the way around. I'm just gonna kind of do the center part. And I'm gonna go dark first, which is Bunker Hill. So let's just kind of paint a little bit of Bunker Hill where this thing is. It looks like somebody sat maybe a plant on this chair. So we're gonna give it a kind of a little Christmassy flair by adding in a little bit of a night sky behind it. You could choose to paint this entire seat in blue, it's up to you. We're not gonna do that today. So that's Bunker Hill. And we're gonna do a little bit more. Everything I'm using is linked in this video. It's all Dixie Belle paint products, water-based, safe to use in your home, around your pets and your kiddos. Okay, let's grab some blueberry with the same brush and drop it in the middle. Then we're gonna blend it together. This paint is water-based, so it's very easy to blend. We're just gonna kind of do some little, just a little fade out of some blue on this seat, so that when we paint our cutie patootie little nutcracker on here, you won't see that stain and he will have room to shine. And then I'm gonna add some little snowflakes all around as well. This is cute, this is fine. So the nutcracker will sit right here in the middle, and this kind of blue will kind of fan out around the edges. Just spread this out a little bit more. That's good. Okay, so now we're gonna get this dry before we move on to the next step, which is our nutcracker. So let me grab my heat gun and dry off this little seat. So this is not a hard thing to paint, okay? I don't want you guys to look at this and be stressed out. This is a basic circle. There's kind of like a elongated cylinder with a rounded edge. This is not really that, it's all just basic shapes, and when we put them together, it makes a really cute little nutcracker. So we're gonna start out with his head. For his head, I'm going to be using apricot. Okay, apricot is a nice kind of skin tone, and I'm just gonna freehand a face in here. Now remember, his hat, right? His hat's gonna come up about this far, so you need to remember that his face needs to kind of be right in the middle, but up a little higher, because you don't want to have a problem where his face is gonna be too low and then his hat is just sitting there and nothing, or vice versa. Plus he's gonna have a beard, this nutcracker. So let's paint in skin tone. If you don't have apricot, you could easily use another beigey color. I often mix my own paint colors. That's cute. I think that's going to be about the right size because I want his hat to come up and his body to come over here. Let's make sure he's nice and round. Again, just kind of freehanding my shapes and circles today. And I'm going to blast this with the heat gun one more time so that we can get it dry. Because I do know that when this dries, it dries a little light. And I'm gonna wanna add that second coat. See how it's kind of still, you can still see the blue in between? So I'm just gonna do that second coat right here over top of the first. Dixie Belle does make a set of brushes that are perfect for this little artistry, just so you know. They are the artisan brushes. They come in this little pack. You can wash and reuse them as many times as you like. Okay, so now that we've got his face there, I can move on, put this into my water and go with the next bit. So now it's up to you. You can work on the hat or you can work on the body. I tend to dry this and then work on the hat. I don't know, it's just easier, it's just a habit. If I wasn't talking like I am here today, I would be able to whip this nutcracker out in probably 5 minutes. I've got them down to a science by now. This color is called Rustic Red. You can choose to paint your nutcracker in any color you like. You don't have to be locked into the same colors that I'm using. I do like red. I feel like it is a little bit festive. So we're gonna do that same shape that we did in the photo, which is basically just a little bit of a rounded top, mimicking the shape of his head. And then you're going to want to bring it up to meet the other corner. This paint is a little thick. I've had it open for a while. Sometimes when chalk mineral paint's opened, you need to get in there and add a little bit of water. I do have my spray misting bottle filled with water if I feel the need, but I think we can make this work. So now we have his rustic red hat. You have the choice of painting his body in the same color, or you can decide to change it up and do blue. So for this little nutcracker, he's all red. I think I'm gonna do the same because I kind of like his festive vibe. I see some more people watching. Hey Denise, how are you? Okay, so let's do his body shape. So we're gonna work first on his main body. I do just kind of the same shape as the hat. To be honest, this is all up to you, how you want to paint it in. You're not locked into doing it the exact same. This is just art. Please use it at your own discretion for whatever adaptability you need to do to paint your nutcracker. But I paint these on children's chairs, and then what I do is after I'm done painting, I actually take the back of the chairs and I put ribbons up here and little Christmas bells, all sorts of fun little things. Okay, so I feel like his body should be a little bit bigger to match his head. Let's just spread him out a little bit more. So this nutcracker ends here, right? He doesn't have anything, any body. He can have a belt. What I'll end up doing is probably adding a little bit of a belt down here to kind of end his body on the chair. Okay, so that is the body. Now I'm going to switch to a smaller brush so that I can get in here and do his arms. This is one of Dixie Belle's artisan brushes. This is a little hard for me to paint when I am talking and standing. Normally I would be sitting down, and actually I like to hold these little chairs in my lap. I find it easier just to kind of get right up on top. So hopefully I can get this done without getting my head right underneath the camera. So you have a couple of ideas here for your nutcracker's arms. You can add hands onto the bottom, which would be basic, just simple ball shapes. Or you could even add in an extended arm and just take it to the next section. What's that? It's up to you, but I just do it the quickest way. And remember, nutcrackers are kind of like assembled, like they don't all touch. So when you look at your nutcracker, he doesn't have to line up exactly. If one doesn't touch, it's okay. It's subjective, right? It's just art. There's no rules in painting. Okay, cuteness, cuteness. So I think what I'll end up doing for here is actually adding on little hands. So let's give him a bit of a dry. What about the belt? Should he come down any further? Should he end at the belt? I think we'll do black if we ended up just extending his body a little bit more. So I'm gonna put that down for now and give him a dry with my heat gun. I also have videos with Santa. You can also do Santa on a seat. That's awful cute too. Okay, I'm gonna grab some Moonshine Metallics. And I'm gonna grab a very tiny brush. Let's see if I can do this without getting my head in front of the camera. Normally my face is literally over my work. Okay, I like to give him like a little bit of a decor up here. So let's paint in some embellishments on his hat. And I also wanna do a little button on the top of the hat up here. And I'm gonna show you my hack for getting perfect circles as soon as I finish these little leaf patterns. So like I said, if I wasn't talking, I could sit down and actually crank one of these out in like 5 to 10 minutes. They're pretty fast. So if you want to get a perfect circle, you're going to take the end of your paintbrush. I'm just going to dip it in the fresh paint, and I'm going to put a little dot right here. All of a sudden you're able to get like a really perfect circle without having to work that hard. It's really easy to use the end of your brush. Just remember to wipe it off so that you don't stick your hand on it like me usually, and it gets in the way. So I'm just gonna clean that brush off, put it back aside, and I'm gonna work on the brim of his hat. So you can use whatever colors you want. I have like a fun little green over here. I grabbed Everglades, which is a nice green, and we can give him like a green hat band too. I like the little brushes because sometimes it's easier to kind of build up the line versus, you know, if the thick brush is too thick. So this might actually take a little bit longer. I'm gonna make this video as fast as possible for you. But if you're painting, if you want to paint with me, come on, grab your brushes. And if you do paint a fun little nutcracker, show me. My friend Patty painted one last year, I think, and it was adorable. Adorable. Let's add some little, what do you call the things that go on top of a shoulder, of a soldier? Is it epaulette? Correct me if I'm wrong. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure it starts with an E. They're like the little shoulder doodads that make it extra fancy looking. So we're just gonna add a little bit of that up here. This will tie his hat into his little nutcracker garb. What's everybody doing? Are you starting your Christmas crafts? I actually have a booth space where I sell a lot of my items, which is why I work a little bit ahead in my schedule. But these little chairs I sell at my booth space like crazy. Crazy. Everybody wants them. Okay, let's add a little visor to his hat. And I think for that, I'm gonna actually use Bunker Hill Blue. So the visor just kind of comes down like this. Could I use a thicker brush? Probably. Will I? Probably no. I like a little dip on the visor. And again, I'm trying to paint this without my head over top of it, so I'm kind of painting in an awkward position. Now, again, for my little hack for my perfect circles, I'm just going to take a dip of the end of my brush into the gold, and we're going to give him some little circles there. So if you wanted to, I mean, if you want to add more decor, go for it. You could add little circles at the top of his hat. Whatever your idea of fancy pants is, go ahead. And I'm also going to do little circles here too. Just because I think that they add some fun little shine to his uniform. All right, remember to wipe it off so you don't get it all over you. So what is next? Well, personally, I like to do the cheeks. What the cheeks do is allows me to line up where his face is going to rest. Because if I start with the eyes and I go too high, it's going to look strange. So I'm going to do a couple little cheeks. Now, I'm going to mix some colors over here. I have a thrifted crystal tray that I believe is for deviled eggs. And I got it at the Goodwill for a couple bucks. And it has these little divots in it that make it really simple for me to paint, mix paint, and wash it out. So I'm no longer going to have to throw my paint trays in the garbage. I can just reuse what I have. I'm just going to create a little bit of red. We're going to grab some rustic red. And I'm also going to grab another brush and drop in some of fluff. Fluff is white, obviously. I'm going to mix it together in my little egg dish over here and create a nice soft pink color. All right, leave that brush over here for mixing. So now that I have a soft pink, I am going to put my elbow on here so I can try and do this circle well. I'm going to try and make a nice small circle. If one ends up a little bit bigger than the other one, you can go back and make the other one bigger. There's no rules. So I feel like his right cheek is a little bit bigger than his left cheek. Let's extend this one. Cute, cute, cute. Okay, still too big. Let's make this one bigger. It's just art, Melissa. It doesn't have to be perfect. Is it still bigger? I can't put my head over top of the... I'll get my hair inside of your camera angle. A little touch bigger. All right, much better. So now we have two circles. That's obviously going to be his cheeks. I'm going to wash off my brush. I debated actually doing a vintage Santa. I picked up this book at an estate sale a while back, and it's very, very vintagey and old. Look, Jimmy Wilson. Hey, Jimmy Wilson. But look how cute this little pop-up book is. And it has all these fun little figures. And I was like, I could paint those. They'd be adorable. But I couldn't find a Santa other than this one with the wonky eyes. And look how funny he is. I was like, I'm not loving his vibe. So I'm sticking with the Nutcracker. I might do this one on a chair later on, but that's really cute too for Christmas. Okay, so now we have cheeks. What will be next? Well, that will be the eyes. Now for the eyes, I do like to use a bit of a watered down paint because when I open these cans and I leave them here and I'm sitting and I'm talking, it starts to make the paint a little chunky. And when I'm working in fine detail, I need to wet the paint to thin it out a little bit. So I've just wet some fluff in my little tiny thing here and I've grabbed my small brush. So now the eyeballs. I personally find that using a thin brush and creating the shape first is helpful. Start small, because if it's like the cheeks where you're like, oh, one eyeball is way bigger than the other, you can still build them up. So I'm gonna actually keep going. Make them a bit bigger. Try and make them the same size. That's good. We like that, we like that. Dry off your brush. Now I'm gonna come in and do a nose. I'm gonna use the same pink that I used for the cheeks, which is that kind of soft pink that we mixed together using fluff and red. And we're gonna paint in his nose. Now, that's only one half of the nose. If you look at these noses, I like to do almost like a two-tone. So I'm gonna grab some of this white, bring it over here and just mix a touch of pink inside of it. So it's a little bit lighter. I'm gonna do the same side, same thing to the other side that I did to this one, with just a little bit lighter amount of paint. Just gives them a little bit of fun and definition. So now we have the eyes, the cheeks, the nose. I am going to do his mouth. Now for the mouth, this is actually just a rectangle shape with teeth painted inside. I think what I'll end up doing is doing it in a different red. I have a container of rusty nail down here. And I'm gonna grab a kind of square brush. This one might be a little bit too worn out. I like a nice sharp brush when I do the mouth because I really want to get those edges straight. Maybe I'll use this one. We might be able to do this. So I'm going to come in and create, actually I might drop a little bit of that paint and just wet my brush a tiny bit. Thin it up just a bit for the edges. Now it's a rectangle, okay? This is where his teeth are gonna be, and don't forget the mustache is gonna be in the middle. But for now I'm gonna do the rectangle. Honestly, I feel like the teeth are the hardest part. Hello, too much water, too much water. Let's soak some of that up. He looks like Nightmare Before Christmas right now. Don't worry. Don't worry. We're going to build it up. Build up that coverage. I just want to get my edges nice and sharp. And then below the teeth, below where we're putting his mouth, is going to be his beard. So you're not going to worry about what's underneath him. We're just going to finish our rectangle. And then we're gonna work on the second layer after we can get it dry. Okay, I'm gonna give it a little blast. And come in and add some more paint too. We're gonna let it sit a little bit. I don't love how it bled into the line of the wood grain, so I'm just gonna go right over top of that extra little bit. Okay, so now that that is getting dry, let me show you how to work on his eyeballs. You can pick the color that you want for his eyes. I usually go lighter. My blueberry is really old, so I'm gonna drop some over here in my little mixing cup and add a touch of water. And then we're going to paint some circles on the eyes. This is obviously his blue eyes, which will have a black pupil in a minute. Dogs are gonna come in here and cry. No crying here, Luna. Cute, cute, cute. Okay, so what's next? Let's do his hands, since that part is nice and dry. We're gonna go back with the apricot, and we're just gonna paint in some circle shapes for his hands. This doesn't have to be overcomplicated. Could you paint fingers? Probably. Do you need to? No. He's a nutcracker. He's pretend. Luna, no crying in here. Out. Cute, cute, cute. Okay, so now we have his hands. Let's paint on some black legs while we're at it. And then we'll do a belt over top of that. So I'm gonna grab some black silk mineral paint. I just grabbed the closest black that was near me. This is Anchor. I'm gonna just paint on some pants, and I'm gonna end him obviously where the blue paint ends. I almost feel like he should have like a bigger bottom. Let's not paint him as straight. Let's paint him a little bit of a booty on there. Cute, cute, cute. Nice. Now I'm going to go back to that very small, tiny little brush. We're gonna finish his eyes and do his mustache. I'm gonna go back to the black color, and then we're gonna paint in his pupil. I think the more I paint little, the less I talk. That one's wonky. I can tell by the way I'm looking at it. Paint it like this. Now, what else we're gonna do with this little eye? We're gonna actually add in kind of like an edge like this. It just defines his cutie little face. And we're gonna do the same on the other eye. And then we're also gonna give him some eyebrows. So he can have these little dots to start his eyebrows. Ooh, the hand is shaky. Mama had some coffee today. So now he's got eyebrows, eyes. Let's work on his mustache. I almost feel like I should add a little bit of water in here. I'm just using paint that's on the lid. Okay, now here's what the trick with the mustache. Let me show you my photo. So the mustache is almost like a tadpole. The best way to do it that I've found that doesn't like make a hot mess express is to do 2 circles. Okay, so we're gonna start each mustache side, his mustachio, with 2 circles, because this is gonna be almost like your guide to filling in his mustache, okay? From that little mustachio circle, we're gonna go up and we're gonna go around, and then you can thin out the tadpole, if that makes sense. Once you get that circle down, you kind of got a direction, and then you can go that way. Luna, stop crying. My dog is just causing me grief over here. I think it's because she wants the back door open. It's a beautiful day in Richmond, and she's like, let me out in the sun. Okay. So now let me fix this one little spot because that'll bother me. This is a heavy grained piece of chair, like a piece of oak. So there is lines in here. If you're working on a canvas, you would be much easier to get in and have a nice smoother finish. So now he's got eyebrows. He's got a mustachio. He's got his cute little eyes. Now let's bring him to life, people. Bring him to life. Do you know how we bring him to life? We're going to add in some highlights. So I'm going to take my fluff and the end of my brush, and let's see, we can add some little cheek dots. I like the little cheek dots, and we're gonna add tiny little dots on his eyes. Now this is just gonna give him a twinkle. Let's give him a twinkle in his eye. That just makes him just come to life. It looks so much cuter like that, right? So cute. Okay, let's take the rest of this brush and go back in with that red that we used on his mouth and finish it in because it's looking like a little bit drier now, so I can thicken up that paint a touch. This is also a really fun craft to do with your kids. My daughter and I did these a couple years ago, and hers turned out so cute, way cuter than mine. Okay, so now we have the face. We're gonna put his teeth, and we're gonna work on some gold buttons. I'm going to use the end of my brush again. Let's make sure I've wiped off all my white paint. I'm gonna grab my gold digger and I'm gonna give him some gold buttons. He's looking a little bit naked because of the missing beard, but the beard and the hair is always last for me anyways. So now he's got buttons. Along with the buttons, I'm going to add in some detail, like if he was actually wearing a suit. And don't worry, the beard is going to actually come down the middle of this. So it's just, this part needs to be covered with the beard. This part is a-okay. All right, what color should we make his belt? I don't have any brown up here, but I do have gold. Can't be black because the belt would then match this. What are we gonna do here? Let me mix a little bit of black and a little bit of white to create some gray over here in my little mixing dish. All right. This brush is probably too thick for it, but we can, yeah, it's gonna be too thick. Get a different one. I need a smaller, straighter brush. Okay, so his belt is going to obviously come across here. And then when this gray is dry, we can add in the belt buckle in gold. That's good. Let's add in a little bit of some, what would you call it, to his edge of his teeny tiny little, what do you call these? A sleeve. Hello, it's a sleeve. What color should we do his sleeve? We have green up here, so it should probably be green. Let's go back in and grab that Everglades and just add a little bit of green to his sleeve. Cute. Almost there, people, almost there. All that's left really is the teeth. Now listen, I'm not gonna lie, the teeth are tiny, tiny. So let's do a little bit of water mixed in with my paint so that I can get in there and get thin. I actually think I'm gonna use the super tiny brush again. And we're gonna paint in some teeth. Okay. Normally, again, my head would be like way over top of this. But we're painting for live video, which is always a little bit tricky. So the teeth, not gonna lie, make him look a little bit more creepy, but you know what? Nutcrackers in general kind of are a little bit of a spooky dude. I'm just gonna try and paint in tiny squares, as even as possible. And we're gonna do 2 rows. hand is shaky. I should not have been drinking coffee at 2 p.m. It's actually kind of funny. Okay. A little bit bigger in that one. Okay. Whew. That made me sweat for a second there. So now he's got his creepy little teeth on there. I know they're not creepy, but they just look a little spooky to me. So what's left? What are you missing here on my nutcracker? Well, let's paint in his belt buckle. We're gonna have to dry his belt, and then we're gonna do his beard and his hair, and that's the funnest part. So obviously gold, right? Moonshine Metallics, Gold Digger, of course. Belt buckle is super easy, folks. It's just a square. You can make it as thick as you want, as thin as you want, as crazy as you want. Your nutcracker, your way. Okay, he's cute. He's basically done. Now, the trick for the hair. Let me tell you the trick for the hair. The trick for my hair on my nutcrackers is this. Terra clay paint. This paint is thicker. Look at in here. Look at that chunky goodness. It's so thick. It works really well for painting a nutcracker hair. I like to use a swooshy brush, a little bit of a swoopy brush, my technical terms. See how thick this paint is? It's going to give it like a nice little 3D effect. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to start at the top, and we're going to swoop out his hair. Almost done. So now his hair's done. So cute. All we need to do is his beard. So same thing for the beard. I start it high and swoop it out. So now my nutcracker has gone from fairly basic, right, to adorable. He's got a twinkle in his eye. He's got some Terra clay paint hair. He is so cute. He's looking so fun. He's got a snazzy little belt buckle. I'm not done yet. We're gonna come in here and do one more thing. I'm gonna go back down to that thinner brush. Where did that one go? And we're gonna go back into our fluff. We're gonna make some little snowflakes. Because what would a Christmas chair be without a Christmas snowflake? We're gonna do a couple snowflakes with no rhyme or reason to direction, just to put them down where my hand hits them. Don't line them up too perfect. It's snow. Snow's not perfect. And actually want to kind of overlap them from the edge too. Like I don't want them to be all the way just on the blue. I want them to also be on my nutcracker. Where should this one go? Over here. Now to seal this, you obviously have to wait for it to dry, especially the Terra clay paint is a little thick. So you're gonna wanna wait probably about a day before you come in here and seal him up. Once you seal him up, you can use easy peasy spray wax, satin clear coat, whatever you like. It is a decorative chair. It's nothing too fancy. Look, I didn't whip out the end of this one the last time I did dots or something, so it's going to be a little thicker, which is perfect for my circles. What do you think? So cute, right? Adorable. He is ready for Christmas. Ready for me to add ribbon onto the back of the chair, and it will be a sweet little seat for somebody's home Christmas decor. So if you paint one of these little Christmas nutcrackers, please let me know. Show me one. Send it to me. I'd love to see. Send me a DM at the Top Drawer VA. I am always on all social media, same name, same place. And I'm trying to be live either here or on my YouTube page every Wednesday around 3. But as always, all of these videos are adapted for YouTube so that you can go catch the whole show, because sometimes we do stuff together that's not exactly 100% complete, or I have to, you know, break it up into a 2-part process if it has to get dry. So yeah, come join me over on YouTube at the Top Drawer VA. I've got a lot of new visitors over there. I've gained like a lot, 20,000 followers in the past few weeks. So come on over and play with some paint. I will see you on the other side. I hope that you had fun today, hanging out, and I will see you next week. You can try your own nutcracker chair. He is all done. Look at that. So cute. So cute. Thanks for joining me. Have fun, and I will see you again next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.